Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. I hung out with a guy in my 20s who worked in a major production facility. He drove a forklift truck, and one day he accidentally backed into some really important equipment, $1 million piece of equipment, and he looked at the damage he had done, and he knew instantly it was irreparable. And I just can't imagine making that kind of mistake. That was an $82 million. Today that might be $3, $4, $5 million worth of equipment. He just backed into it accidentally. It was a mistake, and he wrecked it. And I asked him, well, what did you do? And he said, well, I looked around and I didn't see anybody, so I just drove off. And I said to him, what do you mean? You didn't tell your foreman? You didn't tell the floor manager about what had happened? And he goes, no. If I told him, I would have been fired instantly on the spot. And it makes me realize in that story just how precarious our circumstances are. That how in a moment a mistake can unfold that can have such huge impacts on a company, on our personal lives. I was thinking about the driver of the truck that slammed into the bus from Humboldt that killed 16 members of a hockey team and injured 13 more. It was just a moment of perhaps daydreaming or even just having the sun glint into their eye that caused the accident. I looked on Google Maps and saw the actual intersection. It was fascinating to look at. There was a cope of trees between the two roads. The truck driver and the bus couldn't see each other until the last minute. And it says in the newspaper that the truck driver was driving at the end of the day into the sun, and just for a moment he didn't see the stop sign. And bam, there's such a tragedy unfolds in the moment. Can you imagine that kind of epic fail in life, that the kind of consequences? You make a big mistake and it ultimately becomes a huge failure, whether it's in a plant someplace or on a highway. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you come back from an error like that, like a mistake, causing a $5 million piece of equipment to be permanently destroyed or to cause an accident that has such horrific consequences to so many people? Like, how do you come back from something like that when you've made such a big mistake and it turns into a big failure? And I don't have an easy answer to that, because there, for the grace of God, go any of us. I mean, I've run stop signs before accidentally. I've even gone through a few stoplights over the years. Thankfully, the cross traffic wasn't there, and I managed to just be able to drive away from the moment, kind of like the forklift driver in the factory. But some mistakes happen in such a way, even if it's from our own carelessness, where we don't get to just drive away. It becomes a big failure for us, and we struggle with it, trying to get our heads around it and our hearts through it. We've been looking at the Psalms, and we don't really have a lot of guidance in life about how to deal with these kind of issues, but in the Psalms, there's several Psalms that help us grapple with epic failure in our life. And one of them is Psalm 51. And the thing that I want to draw your attention to in the Psalm is that the songwriter, the lyricist of the piece, simply pours out his heart to God. That's all he does. He does a little bit of negotiating with God, but of course we know in the ultimate sense you don't negotiate with the creator of the universe. But in the moment when you're dealing with epic failure, man, you're trying to do anything you can to get out of this situation. And he tries to negotiate with God, but by and large, he just lays it out for God to see. He lays it out for himself to see, the epic fail, the mistake, the big mistake that turns into failures. And he does it in such a way that there's no holding back, there's no excuses, no conditions, no justifications. Just plays it out there on the open ether of life. And I'm thinking for myself, it's important that we actually acknowledge the truth of our mistakes, and especially our failures in life, so that we can actually be healed and grow from them. I know someone, a good friend, who seems to be constantly making a mess of his life, but he won't own it. He won't own it. He does everything he can to deflect away and turn it away. When you confront him with him, he just gets angry and defensive, and because of this, he can't grow. How do you come back from epic failure? Well, it's not an easy journey back, but it at least begins with the truth. We acknowledge the truth both to God, or our Creator, and maybe even to our neighbor, and we move from that place.